A flight attendant kicks a black girl's suitcase down the stairs, and what happens next cancels the entire flight. Before we dive into this shocking story, comment your city or country below. Let's see how far this story travels. And if you believe that dignity should never depend on someone's mood, hit that subscribe button. Because what starts as a simple boarding moment turns into a scene that stuns an entire airport. Stay with me until the end. This story isn't what you expect. It begins with a woman named Ariana, just trying to get home. Ariana Lewis, 28, had just finished a 3-day conference in Chicago. A marketing manager known for her steady composure and kind smile, she was used to business travel. Still, this trip had drained her. Early meetings, delayed flights, constant pressure. As she rolled her carry-on through the terminal, she felt that familiar mix of exhaustion and relief. All she wanted was to board quietly, close her eyes, and make it home before midnight. Ariana was used to being judged softly, dismissed subtly, a glance here, a tone there, but she never let it break her calm. Grace was her armor. Even so, something about this flight felt different. She couldn't explain it, but her instincts whispered that the day wasn't done testing her patience. She clutched her boarding pass tighter and exhaled. One more flight, she thought. Just one more. From the moment Ariana approached the gate, the energy felt strange. The gate agent barely looked up when she checked in. "Zone 3, the woman muttered flatly, eyes glued to her screen. Behind her, other passengers received smiles and small talk. Ariana noticed the difference, but forced a polite, "Thank you." She moved aside, waiting quietly as people gathered around the boarding area. Her phone buzzed with a message from her husband, "Text me when you're on the plane." She smiled faintly and typed back, "Will do." But the small slights kept coming. A sigh when she asked a question, a hand waved impatiently when she tried to step forward. Nothing major, just layered disrespect. She reminded herself, stay calm. It's just one flight. Still, the unease lingered like static in the air, an unspoken warning that something unpleasant was on its way. The boarding call echoed through the terminal. "Passengers in Zone 3, please line up." Ariana grabbed her bag and joined the small crowd moving toward the open tarmac. The evening wind stung her face as she approached the metal stairs leading to the plane. At the top stood a blonde flight attendant, arms folded, expression tight. No greeting, no smile. Just a glare. Ariana lifted her carry-on carefully. The attendant's voice cut through the engine hum. "That bag's too big." "It fits the policy," Ariana said evenly. "I've flown with it all week." The woman's eyes narrowed. "Then maybe your other flights didn't follow the rules." Passengers behind Ariana shifted, sensing tension. Ariana took a slow breath, ready to comply if asked to gate-check the bag. But the attendant didn't reach for a tag. She reached with her foot instead. With one swift motion, the attendant kicked the suitcase. It tumbled violently down the stairs, metal clanging, wheels spinning, belongings bursting free. Gasps filled the air. A shirt fluttered away in the wind. A laptop sleeve hit the concrete with a dull thud. Phones came out, recording, capturing, witnessing. Ariana froze. Not from fear, but from disbelief. Her suitcase, her personal space, her dignity, was scattered across the tarmac like trash. The attendant stood still, chin raised, pretending it was nothing. Someone whispered, "She kicked it." Another, "You should report her." Ariana inhaled deeply, then exhaled through her nose. No shouting, no tears, just calm silence. She slowly descended the steps, gathered her documents, folded her blouse, closed the broken zipper. Then, without a word, she took out her phone and dialed one number. One call that would soon change everything. Ariana didn't shout. She didn't demand an apology. She just knelt on the tarmac, quietly gathering her scattered belongings. A folded blouse, business documents, a framed photo of her parents. Each item she placed back into her torn suitcase with deliberate care. The flight attendant stood nearby, arms crossed, a faint smirk on her face as if daring Ariana to react. Passengers whispered, some stepping forward. "You should report her." "She can't do that to you." But Ariana only straightened slowly, brushed the dust from her jacket, and reached for her phone. Her voice was calm, steady, the kind of calm that made people listen. "Hi," she said softly. "It happened again." Those words, simple but loaded, drifted into the quiet. No anger, no panic, just precision. Who was she calling? The answer would come soon, louder than any argument could. On the other end of that call was Marcus Lewis, Ariana's husband. A man whose name carried weight in every airport across the country. Marcus wasn't just a frequent traveler. He was the vice president of flight operations for the airline itself. Calm by nature, but decisive when lines were crossed. As Ariana spoke, his tone shifted from warmth to steel. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. "I understand," he said firmly. Then, turning to the controller beside him, he gave a direct order. "Ground Flight 722 immediately. No one boards. No one departs." Within seconds, the command echoed through the internal system. Marcus closed the call with 4 quiet words. "I'll handle this, love." Back on the tarmac, Ariana stood in silence, phone still in hand. The wind blew gently through her hair as distant radios began to crackle to life. Something had changed. Inside the plane, the pilot's radio came alive. "Hold boarding. Repeat, hold boarding. Operational override." The captain frowned, looking toward the open door. "Ground stop? For what reason?" No answer, just static and urgency. Down below, flight attendants exchanged confused glances. Gate agents picked up their radios, whispering quickly. The boarding line froze. Passengers shifted impatiently, some pulling out phones to check for updates. A quiet tension replaced the noise of engines and chatter. One crew member leaned toward the rude attendant and murmured something. Her smirk faltered. She looked toward Ariana, still standing by the stairs, calm as ever. The balance of power was shifting, and everyone could feel it. No one knew yet why the flight had been halted, but the reason stood right there, holding a phone, saying nothing at all. A passenger still recording caught the exact moment the shift became visible. A supervisor approached the rude flight attendant, whispering firmly. Her face drained of color. She tried to argue, then stopped mid-sentence. The supervisor's tone left no room for debate. 2 crew members hurried down the stairs, carefully collecting Ariana's damaged suitcase and belongings. They carried them back up, handing them to her respectfully, almost ceremonially. Silence fell across the tarmac, the kind that hums before thunder. Every eye was on Ariana and the woman who'd tried to humiliate her. The flight attendant's posture crumbled, her earlier arrogance replaced by visible panic. Ariana said nothing. She simply nodded in quiet acknowledgement, her dignity intact. And in that silence, everyone watching understood, justice wasn't loud. It was happening, right before their eyes. 10 minutes later, the supervisor returned with a handheld radio pressed to his ear. His voice was clear, controlled. "Attention, Flight 722 is officially canceled. All passengers, please deplane." Confusion erupted. Groans, sighs, even applause from a few who'd witnessed everything. Some recorded the announcement, others looked around for answers. Ariana remained still, composed amidst the noise. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply adjusted her jacket and waited. The flight attendant, now pale and shaking, was quietly escorted away. Her uniform jacket was gone, her badge clipped off. Tears streaked her cheeks as she disappeared behind the terminal doors. Around her, the scene dissolved into chaos, radios buzzing, staff rushing. But through it all, Ariana stood steady. Where there had been humiliation minutes ago, now stood quiet power. And everyone could feel it. Within hours, the story reached the airline's top floor. Executives reviewed the footage, the reports, and the override order. There was no confusion about what happened. A formal apology was issued to Ariana, both privately and publicly. An internal investigation confirmed the misconduct, and the flight attendant's employment was immediately terminated. Passengers from Flight 722 were rebooked on later flights and offered compensation for the disruption. But online, the story had already taken flight. Clips from passengers' phones spread across social media. People praised Ariana's calmness, her quiet strength, her refusal to lose composure even under humiliation. Comment sections overflowed with support. Many called it a rare moment of accountability in an industry where apologies often come too late. Through it all, Ariana stayed silent, grateful but grounded. She never sought revenge, only respect. This story isn't just about a canceled flight. It's about what happens when dignity meets disrespect and refuses to break. For every Black traveler who's ever been overlooked, mistreated, or judged before being greeted, this moment whispered justice. Ariana's calm didn't come from weakness. It came from strength. She showed that real power doesn't always shout or demand attention. Sometimes it stands tall in silence, letting the world correct itself. And that quiet strength changed everything. So, what can we learn from Ariana? Stay calm, stay confident. Know your worth even when others don't see it. Because true power doesn't come from loud reactions. It comes from controlled responses. When you hold on to your dignity, you hold the upper hand. Sometimes one key,